I mean, there's really only one. Staff.
What we got?
All right, I think it's 7:30.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good evening. We call the meeting for May 5th to order. Please rise and take the salute the flag.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, ask the superintendent please take the roll call for tonight's meeting.
Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Ms. Crowley.
Present.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Lipset.
Here.
Mr. Mulrennan.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Oh, here, present.
So tonight we have Chairperson Dr. John Wells is on Zoom with Ms. Crowley's computer to my left. Also in attendance, we've got Mr. Viola, City Councilor for the City of Woburn, in attendance also, obviously, Bob Ackenhauer, Courtney Young, and obviously Patty McKinnon down the end. At this time, remind folks to please silence or shut off their cell phones. And we begin with our first agenda item tonight, budget reports, presentation of the superintendent staff. Item number 1, budget update to the school committee from Mr. Ackenhauer and Dr. Crowley. Dr. Crowley, please. Bob.
Sure.
Presenting.
First of all, thank you. And before we get to the budget, I just want to acknowledge that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. And so to all the teachers and all the staff in the Woburn Public Schools and everywhere, thank you for taking such good care of our kids. I don't think a week is enough, but that's the best we can do. Thank you. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ackenhauer to review the FY23 budget.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley. I have projected the budget summary page, which you have seen throughout this process, and if you'll notice that we are at 3.75%, and the major change here is that the application of the ESSER funds has been reduced from $2 million to $1,287,500. And we are, with the application of those ESSER funds, we would still be at a total of $73,273,625. So let me show you how we got there. Last week when we met, I believe it was last Wednesday, we had a number of proposed cuts on the table and projected here. Some of those cuts remain. Some of them we have taken back and substituted additional cuts. So I'll go through it quickly and happy to answer any questions. As you can see, and this is not any order of priority. It's just by numerically the largest cuts to the smallest. We maintained reducing sped transportation by $150,000. We went back to the drawing board and sharpened our pencils and looked at enrollment across the district and realized that due to enrollment or projected enrollment next year, we could eliminate 2 classrooms at the elementary level. So you see 2 teachers eliminated for a savings of just over $110,000. Last week, I believe we reported that the history coordinator had decided to go back to the classroom. So that, of course, will happen, and we will simply eliminate that position. The elimination of the assistant facilities director, which was a budget request, still is there. There was a request for ML, multilingual learners. We're in transition from EL to ML. There was 4 paraprofessionals that were asked for. We eliminated that entire budget request. The Sped Wilson teacher was on the list last week, which remains. We've reduced the legal line item in the budget next year by $50,000. We thought that we could reduce by 1 paraprofessional in SPED. It turns out that Ms. Maureen Ryan, the director of SPED, can reduce an additional paraprofessional. So that was a little bit more of a savings. We regrettably did have to cancel the request for the IT support specialist. Going on down, we're going to shift the Reed's preschool nurse from the SPED budget to the contractual line item. And we are going to shift the .4 addition of the chairperson to a revolving account. And to continue our investment in the ML area, although we weren't able to have 4 full-time paraprofessionals, we were able to add to the budget almost $73,000 for interventionists that will be at those 4 schools where we were hoping to have the paraprofessionals. We'll have the interventionists. So next year, we'll have 7 interventionists at all the elementary schools, and then 4 of those 7 elementary schools will have a second interventionist, primarily for ML students. That got us to 13.4 positions that we were able to cut. And then at the Linscott, we have a retiring paraprofessional, which Ms. Cormier had mentioned. I think you might have alluded to that last week. We have a retiring paraprofessional, which was a full-time, which we have split into 2 half-time. So we generously measure that as an additional position, which of course is not recorded here. I did, so reducing by $712,500, that's how we get to our $1.287 million. And then that $712,500 savings this year for FY23 would be rolled over for FY24. And I did a quick percentage to see where our cuts came from. About half of those cuts came from budget requests, FY23 budget requests. Roughly 33% came from existing positions. 28% came from line item reductions. Now you might say that adds up to more than 100%, and it does. That's why we have a negative 10% in adding back the ML interventionists. One more sheet that I do want to show you is this here, where you see that we're proposing to add 14.5 paraprofessionals, 3 ML teaching staff, an assistant principal at the Malcolm White, a BCBA in SPED, a speech language in SPED, an administrative assistant in human resources. So that gets us to the 21.5. Further to the right, you see that the initial request was 30.9. We reduced by 13.4 to get to a 17.5 additional positions in FY23. Back over to the left, you can see that we have the 21.5 there, and then the reconciliation comes lower, comes below that, where we pull 4 additional out, the 2 teachers that I mentioned, the history coordinator, and shifting the Reeves to the contractual line item, gets to the 17.5 additions. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, we'll entertain questions from the members at this time. We'll start with Mr. Lipset, please.
So I think I would like a little clarification, and you and I talked about this a little bit earlier as well, but the 2 full-time teachers eliminated. Can you talk a little bit about that decision, and Ms. Young, if you can chime in as well in terms of the enrollment numbers. Seeing teaching positions eliminated is something that is difficult for me, given that we thought we had arrived at a 3.75 budget earlier. If we were in a fiscal crisis, if we were really far apart on numbers, justifying losing 2 existing teachers is something that I could see, but we're not at that point. So I was hoping you can sort of shed a little bit of light, clarify on that decision.
Sure. So as I said, we took a look at the projected enrollment across the district, specifically in elementary. We identified several schools where there would be going down a teacher, another school might be going up a teacher, and it netted out to two positions, 2 classrooms that we wouldn't need to carry from FY22 to FY23. So at that point, Dr. Crowley, Ms. Young, and I thought that this was the appropriate thing to do, and put those two teachers forward.
So, in terms of the teaching positions that we're talking about, are these full-time staff that we're talking about here? In terms of, I mean, because in our discussion earlier, you'd alluded to some particular circumstances with these positions.
Yes. So at the moment, they're working full-time, of course. More than likely, these two positions, it will come down to one that is a long-term sub and another one who is on an emergency license.
Okay. So, in terms of staff who have been with us for a long time, staff who have been more established, that's not the case.
That's
No.
not the case.
And I wanted to clarify that for the public, especially. When we see two full-time teachers eliminated, that can raise some hackles. I know it did for me initially, so I just wanted to make sure.
And there's always a possibility that these two individuals could land on their feet.
Sure.
We could have a last-minute resignation, a last-minute retirement. There might be another open position in the district where a current teacher would take it, and presumably what these two individuals or whomever the individuals turn out to be could slot in. So is it a guarantee that they can slot in somewhere? No, but hopefully they'll land on their feet. We'll do everything we can.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's still not something that I like to see, but I understand the reasoning. I appreciate the explanation. One additional question with that. So, in terms of the enrollment numbers, another thing that I would hate to see is us being in the position that we found ourselves in a couple recent years, where we were right on the edge, and then we had some students move to Woburn over the summer. And in September, October, November, we have to disrupt a classroom, move people around, add another class. So I wanted to talk a little bit about whether or not you foresee that as a possibility, given the enrollment numbers.
Sure. And we can never predict the future completely. I think that, we don't ever completely know. But in terms of the reductions that were made, the number of students needed for us to need an additional classroom is a pretty significant number across the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I feel comfortable.
Okay.
And there are spaces where we probably could have borderline, and we chose not to.
Okay.
The places that we did were places that we felt, given the circumstances, very comfortable.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
As an example, kindergarten enrollment of 30 with 3 teachers, like that was one of the decisions. So we were comfortable with 2.
A lot of it, too, for the most part, are classrooms where we have 3 kindergartens, 2 second grades, 3, this, and they kind of all move along.
Right.
And so eventually it evens it out, as under 2.
Okay. All right. That's it for me.
Good. Ms. Crowley.
So the shift from requesting ML paras to interventionists, can you talk a little bit about that? That's brilliant, by the way. I like that. Can you just talk about what your vision is for the interventionists for ML?
Sure.
Courtney, sorry, I didn't direct my question to you. I just kind of said it, looked at you. So, Ms.
I
Young.
knew it was for me. We have had a lot of success at the elementary level with interventionists, and I know they're coming into this kind of budget run. It was a big thing for our elementary school principals, because we do see a lot of success with the staff coming in. It's 19 hours, and it's just very, very targeted. So when we were looking at the budget and knowing that we were kind of eliminating some positions with the 4 paraprofessionals, we kind of looked at, well, what are the options that we have so that we can be providing, some targeted support that maybe looks a little bit different. And we met with Erin Johnson, the Yale coordinator, and discussed kind of some of the possibilities. And one of the things that we came to was looking at interventionists who are really targeting this population. So our current interventionists work with our content specialists to kind of determine the specific needs of our kind of literacy learners. And then the ML interventionists will also work in that part, but they'll also be getting guidance and support from the EL staff in the building in terms of some really targeted groups, especially our kind of level 1 newcomer students.
Yeah, I think that's, I'm very satisfied by that, because I think at last meeting when I was thinking about doing my due diligence in arriving at a budget that I could be satisfied with, I was thinking about MLL infrastructure that maybe we were doing too much too soon. And I just really like the way that that sounds. Like I like the building the EL teachers first and then, ML teachers and then adding interventionists. I just think it's great. And I think it's saving the district and the city some money and also meeting the needs of ML students. So I'm just really happy with that. And I think you did a great job. I just, I'm concerned about losing the history coordinator position. Although, again, this is not a person that is working directly with students, more helping administration, central office. So I think it's a fair adjustment considering that, she wants to move back. I'm sorry, this position wants to move back to the classroom. I'm not talking about anyone specifically. So I think that makes sense too. So I'm very pleased where this is going, and I think that the budget is underlying a lot of the district's missions, and also dealing with post-COVID crisis for a lot of learners. So, thank you.
Thank you. All set, Ms.
Thank
Brown?
you, Ms. Moran.
Mrs. Chisholm?
The ML interventions, what schools would they go to?
Yeah, the Harold Lyman, the Shamrock, the Linscott, and
Reeves. Goodyear.
Malcolm
No,
White.
that's-
Almost there.
I just told somebody this today.
The,
Well, that's,
Sorry?
the white.
what'd you say, Linscott?
Linscott.
Where's your notebook, Bob?
Harold Lyman.
You got it written down. We have it somewhere.
The Linscott,
The Harold Wyman, the Shamrock,
Alta
and
Vesta.
and the good, no.
Alta Vesta.
Alta
Give me a
Vesta.
second.
that's
Yeah, we have
okay.
the-
Not the
She
white?
won't take it.
Okay. All right, I'll let you
There's a
get
pair
that.
at the White and the Reeves.
The
'Cause they-
Shamrock, is it the Shamrock?
Yeah,
Yes.
the
Harold
the
Wyman,
Goodyear and
Shamrock.
the Malcolm White have
Yes.
have
Yes, that's what
the Goodyear and the
McGrath School.
Malcolm White has a para already.
Yes.
Definitely the cloud.
Give me a second.
Well, I'll ask about the nurse,
Yes.
the nurse position.
Yes.
Was that a part-time position prior? Because I mean,
Yes.
22.5, so it's just a part-time?
It's a part-time position, yes.
Okay, all right, so
Yeah.
I'm like 22.5 for nurse.
Yeah,
that's
it's a
kind of-
part-time position in the Reeves. Yeah.
Okay, so that was good. And the human resource administrative assistant, is that Jake's position?
No, Mr. Donovan's position is still vacant. The administrative assistant in HR is an additional position.
Is that something that is needed this time, when we could have used it for maybe the two paras or something?
Yes, I do think it is needed. We have a growing district.
Mhm.
We have a lot of administrative tasks in the human resources area that needs to get done. So yes, I do believe that it is necessary. That position also, although HR will be this person's primary function, they will have the ability to assist in other areas of central office as well.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. And then, I'm a little disappointed that we're not doing the IT position. I think that Jen does wonders down in that department. I worry the fact that we have just added so much technology to our district, and it's like when you buy $1 million house, if you don't take care of it, it fails really fast. So I just think that we need to keep our eye on that one for next year, if nothing else, or if we,
We certainly will.
yes, because I feel bad that she doesn't get the help that she's been asking for too, so but that's my places for now.
I believe the answer to your question.
Oh, good,
is
yay.
Harold Lyman, Alta Vesta, Linscott, and Shamrock.
If only someone
I
said
just
Alta
didn't
Vista.
put them in alphabetical order.
Thank you.
All set, Mrs. Chisholm?
I am for now,
Okay,
thank
Mr.
you.
Kissel,
Oh,
next.
quick question, maybe it's on a different sheet. I'm not seeing it. The facilities, you have the assistant director, which was the 100,000.
Right here? Yep.
And then there was the 67 or whatever for the other
At
one.
one time in the budget process, we had a preventative maintenance
that's
position as
already
well.
taken.
That was gone.
Because I thought we took that out too at one point, so I just wondered why it's showing up on this list and not the other one.
Yep, the assistant director had been taken out, was put back in, and now is taken out.
Gotcha. All right. And on the sped transportation, the 150,
Yes.
what, you probably explained this before, but it's the only thing I can think of there that's not an actual position. what's the justification for that?
In working with Mrs. Ryan, she thought that due to the lingering effects of COVID, if you will, that it was something that she could reduce.
I think I heard, yeah, you said it.
By $150,000. And just so you know, I mean, we went around for a while, not that I was arguing with her, but we did a deep dive to make sure that, you know, we weren't going to all of a sudden have $150,000 of bills that we couldn't pay. But we felt comfortable that we could do that.
Okay.
And we do have some backup if for some reason we found that those bills were running hot, we would be able to pay some of those bills with a grant or circuit breaker. So we do have some backup there.
Great. Okay, so I had.
All set, Mr. Kissel? I
Yep.
don't know if you want to chime in and ask Dr. Wells if you had any questions regarding this, Ms. Crowley?
I also have a question,
No, I don't
Mr.
have
Chair.
one. I have none.
John doesn't have a question?
There's no feeling.
Oh, my God. It
Well,
goes to show.
We offered Dr. Wells his opportunity to turn back to Ms. Cormier, please. Sorry, I didn't see your hand raised.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I know I spoke to Dr. Carley briefly about this last week. Under administration for the administrative assistant, where there's a 28% increase in the salary, I just wanted to see if you would speak to that as far as the, obviously this is being budgeted, the position hasn't changed yet, but what we can expect and what the changes will be for that.
Like, what's this, the question?
The question is for the administrative assistant,
Yeah.
you were looking to change that to an executive assistant?
Yeah, so, yeah, you had asked this at the end of last, yeah, so
Yeah.
essentially, it's been 4+ years to create a confidential position rather than a union position in the position of executive assistant to the superintendent. And so that's a competitive regional number, and so that's how,
The salary is?
yeah,
Okay. All right, thank you.
sure.
All set? I do have a couple of questions for you, Bob. First of all, from last Wednesday to tonight, outstanding. You know, I mean, you guys had quite a task ahead of you here, but you accomplished that. You mentioned a couple of positions filled in. Did we offer the early retirement incentive this year at all? No?
We didn't this year, no.
No? Just something, didn't think about it, or you don't think it's necessary? How many retirements do we have? I know you sent it to us.
I think there are a total district-wide, I think there's something like 12 to 14.
That was about a dozen or so you
Yes.
said earlier.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a wash there. And again, you know, for those of us who've been sitting here for quite a while, and I'm happy to hear that it hasn't been mentioned during any of this budget cycle, and hopefully this budget will go through. To his honor, the mayor, we'll hear from soon. Here we are again in Woburn, and we're not sitting here with, you know, drastic steps. We're also not asking our families any kind of fees whatsoever. You know, there's not going to be a bus fee, there's not going to be an athletic fee, an activities fee, a music fee, any of those fees. And if you look around other districts around us, you'll see that that still goes on. And I'm so happy to sit here tonight, and, you know, although it's, you know, it's crunch time, it's tonight, and like I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, all of our staff have to make do or get by or work with what you have, and it looks as though you've gotten there, again, not hurting, as hurtful as it could be. So I applaud you for your efforts on the work accomplished so far. So, anyone else have any comments or questions? If not, at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Would you want
to
to the mayor to come up and speak?
Or we're going to do the public part first, or we can hear from the mayor second. I don't know the procedures here. Oh, we'll open it up to hear from Mayor Galvin. Honorable Mayor Galvin, you back there? Here he is. Any place, I guess.
Up here, so you
It's on camera.
TV will get you better there.
Yeah, you want
Mr. Mayor, obviously, you worked very diligently with our administration to get to us to this tonight, so.
Yeah, we ate a lot of
Any
pancakes
remarks?
today.
Getting sleepy.
You couldn't get us any more bacon though, huh?
No, no more. Pound.
No more fat.
So I want to thank members of the school committee for working towards this goal to get the budget passed. I just want to give a little background on, you know, which I think you're all aware of. So we've been doing, I think, a real good job adding to the school department to address the needs that have come up through COVID and through our, you know, influx of new students that, you know, are lacking in English speaking, so we have a shortage there, and we've been addressing that. Special ed has been creeping up as well. So last year, I know you know that through the budget process, the budget went up, the spending went up well over 5.5% because we had the ESSER funds. We added probably close to 40 positions in the budget. In the budget, I say that about 25 were included in the budget, 17 were off budget, meaning they were funded by ESSER, so they didn't show up in the budget, but we covered them. So we had about 40 new positions last year. We were all on the same page with that. This year, as we looked at the new positions, you started the process with about 30 new positions, remembering that those 17 that were off budget now have made their way into the budget, so they're actually included in the budget funding process. But in any event, over the past couple of years, the past 2 years, we're in the process of adding about 70 positions. And part of my concern, two things actually, is the benefits that are associated with those positions are going to catch up to us. And you don't see them on the school side, we see them on the city side, and they're not. But we don't budget for that many new positions. We just don't. So that was a major concern of mine. That's why I talked to Matt and Bob and Courtney, and we talked about how we could address those. And they went back to the drawing board and tried to reduce to a closer number that we could at least be comfortable with. And I said 15, and you worked hard to get to around 17. So, I thank you for that effort. And with that said, the spending, again, even though the city's approving the 3.75, the overall spending of the budget is going at 5.5%, a little bit more. That's a significant amount of money. And we all have to be cognizant of this, is federal funds aren't always going to be there. And particularly next year, there's going to be, there's going to be a little bit of a fiscal cliff. And these positions that were created, we have to be able to fund them. And that's a major concern, should be all of you, is that we could have an issue funding these. It's just not, it's not economically feasible to keep funding at a 5.5 plus increase. And we've had the benefit of the ESSER funds, and the ESSER funds are really good because they've helped us address things, but part of the ESSER mission was to use those funds for one-time expenses that aren't continuing. And you did a good job, Matt, last year, to a certain extent, finding what you could for capital. That's what the ESSER funds are really for, is to, they tell you, and that is use them for one-time expenditures. And right now, I don't think there are any in this budget that are one-time. So I'd like you to look at those when you've got additional ESSER funds. I'd like you to look at what you can do as far as using that money for one-time expenses, because there is going to be a day of reckoning when we're not able to fund all these positions, and it's going to come sooner than we think. So that's my concern. But I think with this budget, we all have to recognize that spending is going up 5.5%. We're talking about reductions in the budget that I know some of you, like Andrew, I understand your concern with the teachers, and others, that some of the positions you'd like to have, and we just can't have them all. And we need to convey to people that we're not cutting the budget, we're increasing the budget, we're increasing the spending by a significant amount. And I think we're all on the same page with that. So that's all. But if anybody have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Ms. Crowley for the mayor?
My only, I completely, obviously 100% understand what you're saying, and I appreciate you coming down tonight. My only feedback in general is that if we could just know sooner, as we develop the budget, the administration spends a lot of time gathering input from principal, as you know. We've been doing this a long time there. So it'd be good to know what the whole spending limit is in the very beginning, because we bring up these positions in public meeting, people get excited about them, and then we have to reduce them.
Yeah.
So it would just be helpful if we had more communication from the beginning. That's my only feedback. Other than that, I 100% agree, and I think that we should, tonight, we can highlight, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we can highlight exactly what we're doing for the school system, which is significant there. This is a huge, huge budget, and I deeply appreciate you working with us.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that, I agree with you, that's good.
But, January would be a
Well,
good time.
we do.
Not May.
We do, and the process, and I know you know this, Ellen, there is a process, and the superintendent starts early communicating with the principals and the
Yes.
schools. And, I think if I came out right out of the gate and said, this is it, it would make Matt's job
All right,
very fun. But
okay.
So he does, there is a process, and then we do have a board.
I know, and it works.
Yeah.
And this was different because we have the ESSER money.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. I just, well.
Next
thank you for
year's
listening.
going to be different. I think we all have to.
Next
start-
year,
We have to
let's,
start looking
yeah,
at that.
January.
Yeah. But let's enjoy the moment.
All right, thank you.
All set, Mr. Crowley?
I'm totally fine.
Ms. Chisholm for the mayor?
I just appreciate your time too, and I know that it's hard, and we are just one department, and I know there's others out there that are screaming for money too, and it's tough because we want to keep our taxes low and everything else, but it's just the capital improvements that we've been asking for. Will you also give us that money that?
We'll sit down and talk about because there's going to be multiple capital requests.
Yeah.
And like I said, the ESSA funds are there for capital,
Mhm.
and there's additional capital that I think, we're going to have to sit down and talk with. So it's going to be, again, a combination of how we address it. But I agree there are capital needs that have to be addressed.
Yeah.
But I just say there's ESSA funds,
Right.
there's city funds. Let's
Right.
look at both of them.
Okay, yeah, I have no
Yeah.
problem with that, because I have been one of the people banging the drum saying that
Yeah.
I get nervous when we put positions in grants, because they do come back.
Right.
We have to account for those. But I also think that, too, I think it's important for the principals to have their wishes and dreams. So I do think it's important that they bring them to Matt and say, you know what, this is what we like, and this is where we like to see our schools go, and this is what I need for our buildings. Because we sit here, but we're not in those buildings daily to see what they need to do. And if we don't hear from the principals, or administration doesn't get to us and tell us what they're asking for, then it's just kind of almost a crapshoot for us when we get here. But I do appreciate it, and I think that we've done a great job. And like Mr. Mullen said, we don't have all the added fees that everybody else does. So I think that this community does a lot for their kids.
The school committee does a good job with that.
We certainly do.
Repeat that, Mr. Mayor?
But thank you.
Anyone else for the mayor? Mr. Lipsy?
I also appreciate you coming before us and talking about your thought process with this budget, and it is a difficult decision to make, and I appreciate all the hard work that you've done and the administration has done. I guess my comment, it's not a request, it's not anything beyond a comment, is as you're well aware, these are very difficult times to be in education. We have additional ESSER funds, yes, but our needs are growing at a pretty rapid pace, and we're seeing that every day in the school buildings. I see it where I work. It's hard to keep things above water right now, and so it's hard for me to look at the budget that was presented a couple of weeks ago and see some of the positions that have been taken out, knowing the good that can be done for our kids. And so, again, it's a comment more than anything else. But I think we need to be cognizant that we have before us a budget that is going to do a lot of good for our kids. There's no question about it. But I can't help but sort of hear that voice in the back of my head that says we can do more.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate you being here, but I keep looking back.
That's what your job is as a school committee, and I understand that. We do want to look at the whole picture, and as you mentioned, we're doing a lot of good, so. We get your
Thank you.
point.
Yeah, thank you.
All set? Mr. Kissel for the mayor?
To that point, and actually echoing what Ellen said earlier about the MLL, is, and I can actually start to say this, I've been here for a while, so I've seen many budgets, and over the years, pretty much everything we've wanted, it may have taken an HR position, for example, a little bit, Malcolm White, assistant principal, maybe it took a little while, obviously we'd love to get it all, and to Alan's point earlier is, pulling some of this stuff back, unfortunately, it is a hit, it's not always the best thing to do, but over time, it just seems like we get those positions in. So I think at this point, to your point, let's be happy we've got, what we have now, and then knowing that next year might be a little tougher we're still working with the little bit of ESSER monies that are left, but it always seems like it may take a little bit, but over time, we get the things that we really, really need for the system. So I appreciate all you've done over the years as well.
Chris. Yeah.
Thanks.
And if you could just check, Ms. Crowley, does Dr. Wells have any concerns for the mayor right now? Or is it still?
Dr. Wells?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Dr. Wells is all set. No other members have any information or comments, questions for the mayor? Obviously, we're going to highlight some great stuff. So thank you again for your time tonight,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Have a
Thanks,
good
Scott.
evening.
Good night.
Enjoy Cinco de Mayo. So at this time, would entertain a motion to open our public comment for our public hearing meeting tonight.
I'll make that
moved.
motion, Mr.
Second.
Chair.
Motion by Ms. Crowley to open the public meeting, second by Mr. Kissel. At this time, we now have a motion, and the public may speak regarding our current budget, as will be sent down to City Hall and the mayor's office this evening, completion of this meeting.
Do we have to vote on that motion?
All in favor?
We get this, come on up.
All in favor?
We have a public comment first. We open,
No, we have to approve the budget.
we have to open the public meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Public session is now open.
Oh, that's the
And we have a speaker this evening. If you could just identify your name for the record, please.
It feels weird to be up here with the mask on again, but I have a COVID-positive household member, not me, so that's why I'm doing this
I
tonight.
appreciate your time tonight.
Julie Cotton, you guys know me, I've been here, a million times. So, a little weird to follow the mayor, thinking I was going before all this stuff, but, so some of this may be redundant. But, I brought a thing to say. So, when the school committee sends the budget proposal to the mayor each year, it's because you are requesting the mayor's endorsement of the proposed cost which comes from the city's pockets. After collaboration with the mayor and approval by the school committee, the budget's then voted on by city council. This year, in addition to the city funds, we have access to the ESSER funds, which, for the benefit of a listening audience, the use of the ESSER funds is dictated as follows. The purpose of the ESSER 3 fund is to support the safe reopening and sustaining safe operations of schools while meeting students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. I pulled that quote from the state website. Use of the ESSER funds is entirely within the purview of the school committee, as these funds do not pass through City Hall on their way to the district. However, the mayor has decided that though you already crafted a budget to meet his city spending demands, he now wants you to further cut items for our school budget to offset the use of ESSER funds. He's concerned about how long ESSER funds will be available and does not want those line items funded by ESSER to become a city cost in the future. And I can appreciate that pragmatism, but I personally feel that's a bit of an overreach. ESSER funding is designed to offset the increased level of need in our district on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic. These funds are not designed to give cities a comfortable budget cut. Our student population is struggling. There are significant increased behavioral needs and academic needs at all grade levels at every school. These needs will not evaporate in the next few years, even if ESSER funds do. Further, it's in the purview of our educational experts, not just elected politicians, to make these determinations. It's not the duty of school committee to focus on the mayor's fiscal year 25 budget concerns over the needs of our students today. We all went through COVID together. We're all fighting to come back from it intact. Our students deserve to be prioritized and have that ESSER funding directly impact our educational recovery from this pandemic. Please stand firm and reject the mayor's attempt to use ESSER funds to offset a portion of the school budget that is the city's yearly responsibility, and let those funds be used in the manner to which they are intended. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cuddy. If you could, please email that to Dr. Wells as well as Ms. McLeod, so we can enter it into the minutes for tonight's meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Again, this is the public comment session of the meeting. Anyone in the audience that would like to make comment regarding the budget as presented may do so at this time.
Do you want to speak?
Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Chisholm to close the public hearing, second by Mr. Kissel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Wells, missed him over there. At this time, I'd like to get the final number from you, if I could, Mr. Alcanada. We're going to vote on a number in just a second.
73,273,625.
273, 625. Okay. You all heard the number from Mr. Alcanada, so at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to vote to send that 2023 budget to City Hall as the school committee's final budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Crowley, second by Ms. Chisholm. Any comment on the motion? Ms.
On the
Crowley?
motion. I object to the mayor's, demand that we use our ESSER money or control how we spend our ESSER money. I also, as I told the mayor, I have concerns about the delay in the communication of the budget issues. However, this budget, I think, represents what the Woburn Public Schools is trying to do, who we want to be as a school district. I'm very proud of the work that the administration has done. I am satisfied with the special education spending and the positions used to support children of all learners in the district. I am impressed with the ML infrastructure that we're building to meet the needs of ML learners. I am excited for the general education spending and the curriculum advancements that we have made over the years. We even have a position to support inclusionary sports at the high school, so children can participate in sports, and I find that to be excellent. We are building a volleyball team and creating extracurricular activities for our students. So this budget I am very impressed with. I am very happy to be voting in favor of it, despite my concerns about the mayor's overreach. But I feel like this budget is good. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, those are my thoughts. But I think it really advances the superintendent's strategic plan and all of the work that administration has done. I'm very proud. I also think that our teachers are awesome, and I deeply appreciate all of the work that the teachers do each and every day. And I think that's it for my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Crowley. Anyone else commenting on the budget? To my right, Mr. Lipset.
I echo a lot of what Ms. Crowley just said. And again, I think this budget is going to do a good job of supporting our students. This budget is going to do a good job of getting us towards where we need to be. My one area of concern right now continues to be the reduction of 2 full-time elementary teachers, especially, we just had a meeting in this room a few hours ago talking about, additional building going on in Woburn. I'm concerned about potential, new enrollments. I want to avoid a situation where we are going to have to add a classroom teacher midstream. So I would like to offer a motion that we add back in 1 full-time elementary school teacher to this budget.
Motion by Mr. Lipset to add 1 full-time teacher into our budget. Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion fails.
Point of information, Mr.
Sorry.
Chairman.
Go ahead, Dr.
Point
Walter.
of information, I think there's a motion on the floor. I think it would have to be an amendment to the motion.
Okay, I'll offer an amendment.
Yeah.
Second? Now that it's an amendment, anyone?
Thank you, Dr.
No?
Wells.
Okay.
Mr. Lipset's amendment to the motion. Any action? Okay.
I want to say something.
Ms. Crowley.
I want to say something like if no, I can't say anything. Sorry. There's a collective bargaining situation going on, and in that collective bargaining, if we do settle with the teachers, there might be more discussion on positions.
That's fine.
And that's all I can say. But,
That's fine. I appreciate that.
As the public knows,
Clarity.
collective bargaining agreements, sometimes there is added staff.
All right, I appreciate that.
So seeing that and getting the clarification to Mr. Lipset through Ms. Crowley, we currently have the motion on the floor to vote to send $73,273,625 as our budget figure to City Hall. Any further comments on the motion? On the motion, Mr.
Real
Kissel.
quick, so we usually get the actual percentage, so is it 3.75?
Oh, yeah.
It is, yeah.
I can't see it up there, so.
Sorry, it is 3.75 on the number.
Even.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
3.75%.
Going out of,
All set,
Okay.
Mr. Kissel?
all set.
All right. Any other comments, concerns regarding the motion? I believe we should probably take a roll call for that, Superintendent, if you don't mind.
Sure. Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Crowley?
Yes.
Mr. Kissel?
Yes.
Mr. Lipset?
Yes.
Mr. Mulrennan?
Yes?
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
So with that then, we now will be sending down that number from Mr. Akinada, the Woburn City Council, to the City Hall office. Again, 3.75%, 73, 273, 625. And I believe that concludes our meeting for this evening. We do not have an executive session, to my knowledge.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Oh, we do. Do we?
No?
John said we didn't.
No,
John, this is Dr.
No, I don't think,
no.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything at this time. We're still in the process of negotiation.
Okay, so,
Great.
Awesome.
Motion to
seeing no
adjourn.
executive session, I'll entertain a motion to
Motion
adjourn
to
at
adjourn.
8:15. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for your time.
Feel better.